Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Deisel. I'm from the Unisa Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. A very warm welcome to you who have joined us this afternoon. We are very excited to be here together for our career talk on entrepreneurship and innovation. So just some practical arrangements before we start with our program. You will notice that your camera and your microphones are currently disabled. Excuse me, but we will enable these during the event. We just ask that as you are listening to the presentations, please feel free to post any questions, comments, or thoughts that you have about what you are listening to in the Q&A as well as the chat in Microsoft Teams. We just ask that you also don't share any personal information in the chat or the Q&A. That would be, for example, your email address or your telephone number. That is just to protect your privacy. We are recording the session and you will be able to access the recording in the chat for this meeting later this afternoon. We will also be publishing an edited recording on our YouTube channel. So with that, let's just take a look at our program. We have 3 speakers today. We will be talking about different aspects around entrepreneurship and innovation. We will, after each of the speakers, have a short Q&A session during which you are welcome to then ask your questions live, or we will then attend to the questions in the chat. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Mrs. Mando Makanya. If you could please introduce our first speaker to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I will certainly do. While doing so, I will switch off my camera. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my distinct honor to introduce an exceptional leader whose work continues to shape the future of healthcare, youth empowerment, and innovation across Africa. He is an award-winning impact-driven tech entrepreneur committed to creating positive change and solving real-world problems. He is the co-founder and the CEO of Propeller Health, a venture that unlocks global career pathways for African nurses to bridge the global skills gap in healthcare. His work is informed by expertise in labor economics, data analytics, and building the digital marketplace that influences the future of the work. Our speaker, ladies and gentlemen, his entrepreneurial journey has been marked by a consistent dedication to empowering young people across Africa. As the previous founder and CEO of Ford Africa, a Pan-African graduate talent marketplace, he made a significant impact by helping youth secure meaningful jobs and over 10 million rands in livelihoods. Before that, at Kula Investments Group, he spearheaded projects empowering over 10,000 youth and women in underserved communities. His ability to build meaningful past partnerships highlights the people-centric collaborations he built with notable organizations such as NAPES, Alan Gray, and Mercedes-Benz, to name a few. Driven by passion, ladies and gentlemen, for helping young people reach their full potential, our speaker champions fitness and mental wellness as crucial disciplines for maintaining the balance and focus required to thrive as an entrepreneur and mentor. As a self-taught designer and developer, he uses data-driven storytelling to shed light on social challenges and opportunities, embodying the spirit of constant innovation, which you will hear about more today. Ladies and gentlemen, Unisans, please join me with a loud virtual round of applause in extending a warm welcome as we invite our speaker, Mr. Vuyo Pakade, at the Unisa virtual podium. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mando, and thank you, Vuyo. You are welcome.
No, thank you very much, Mando, for that introduction. Really appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's really great to be here and to chat today about really entrepreneurship and how we believe that it can solve the world's problems. But yeah, maybe first and foremost, as mentioned, my name is Vuyo Pakade. I'm a 31-year-old entrepreneur. sometimes, this entrepreneurial journey will make you age much faster. So if you did see the screen and it looks like I'm looking like I'm 40, just understand that this journey will take you there. I've started multiple companies. I've also failed many times, more times than I can care to remember. From the age of 15, with shirt businesses and selling caps. But I've also done some work in building ventures that have gone on to make some meaningful impact, as was mentioned, in helping young people find jobs, earn money, and in most cases also build their very own businesses. This has gone from graduate recruitment all the way through to sneaker selling. I've really tried my level best to use technology to not just bridge the gap to job opportunities, but also help young people earn a livelihood in Africa. We have the largest resource of the future, which is our young people. And I believe that making impact in helping them grow themselves will actually help Africa take on the world. Now, while many refer to me as a CEO, I often see myself more as a CMO, which I often refer to as Chief Madness Officer, as most of my day-to-day is spent on managing the chaos that comes with this thing called entrepreneurship, right? And so while I do take the praise of a CEO, I want you to understand that most of entrepreneurship is putting out fires, and really trying to manage the day-to-day of the chaos with working with so many people across the board. But a small story I wanted to start off with is to give background into where this journey all started. Many years ago, as my age will tell, during the Fees Must Fall movement in 2015, a friend of mine met a very brilliant young man from a township on the outskirts of Sasolburg. This 21-year-old was 3 years out of matriculating with 7 distinctions and had a hunger to attend university, but he was stuck. His problem is that he couldn't find the funding to attend universities and didn't even know where to start. Yet we live in a system that has so many funding opportunities and scholarship opportunities for such brilliant minds to be able to access university. While I was also a student, I was also facing the same problem. I was not able to find scholarship opportunities, raised by a single mom who was trying her level best to get me through varsity, and she did very well. I was also trying my level best to try and find a way to support her by finding scholarship opportunities. And though I had the privilege of unlimited access to data and the internet, this was a problem where I couldn't manage myself. And so during Fees Must Fall, we realized that this just wasn't his problem, and it wasn't just my problem. This was a systematic problem, a problem that frustrated me enough to create my own venture. And the frustration that led me to create my first company called Funda. So Funda was a platform created to bridge the gap between scholarship opportunities and students and make it easy for everyone to apply through their smartphone. While, again, working in the development space and the rural development space in my early career, we used chains of WhatsApps to get communication and information across the board. And I just didn't understand why the same type of systematic way of us making sure people had information that they needed in the rural areas wasn't able to help young people find scholarship opportunities that can unlock their future. And so I went out of my way at the age of 24 to really bring this to life. And, I often tell the story, but it's a lot more of a tragic story where my friend reaching university. And this is the reason why I realized that it was not about being perfect, but it was about getting started. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to get started. I didn't know where the funding was going to come from and what this thing could really be. But I just got started because I realized that the time we have today is most best spent not being idle, as young as we are. And so I'm here today because that entrepreneurship I believe entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful tools we have to fix the issues that frustrate us. Today I'm not going to be talking about really getting rich fantasy that many people will see online. I think a lot of people picture entrepreneurship as this way to get rich quick, and have multi-millions, have yachts. But today, and if really that's your motivating factor in entrepreneurship, I will tell you now, there's much easier ways and less painful ways to get to that get rich quick. So today I'm mostly going to be talking about the real challenges and the amazing work that's been done on building solutions on today's problems. It's more about looking at something broken and asking yourself, what if I have the capabilities of building a better way for the future? Now, first and foremost, I want to be honest with everyone. Entrepreneurship sucks. Entrepreneurship really sucks, and don't let me or anyone else tell you differently. Most people think starting a business is like following a recipe book, a clear step-by-step plan, and the truth is very, very, very different. A quote by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, says, starting a company is like jumping off a cliff and assembling a plane on the way down. Now, if anyone has ever thought of in your imagination, trying to build a plane while you're actually parachuting down, I can tell you my own journey, this is 100% right. You're constantly testing, failing, learning, changing directions. And this isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, but this is the process of innovation and bringing something new to the world. Our story resembles this. While we started as a scholarship platform, and on the eve of the pandemic, 3 days before the pandemic, very quickly did we realize that scholarship programs were reducing the amount of scholarship they were distributing, but also were more pain pointed towards their recruitment for early graduates into their jobs as opposed to scholarships. And so while we talked to a lot of our customers and engaged with them around our solution for scholarships, they were telling us they had more problems with recruiting online with graduates. And so very early, we pivoted from graduate or scholarship platform to becoming a graduate recruitment platform. And that's where most of our success had come from. Even today, Propeller Health is really a pivot out of the graduate recruitment space, where last year we were looking to expand into Europe and the US and Americas, and fast realized that it wasn't just graduates. The pain point wasn't really about graduates that they were trying to recruit, but more so that there was a massive, massive, massive challenge in the healthcare space where they couldn't get enough nurses. And when we came back, we realized Africa has such a large population of young people and a large population of unemployed young people, yet these people could be easily skilled into the nursing and healthcare space and be able to attain these global opportunities in that space. Yet I don't think many people are aware of just how opportunistic this was. So, as I said, you don't need to know all the answers when you start. You just need to be obsessed with the problem you're trying to solve. And our problem that we've been trying to solve since day one, since the days of scholarships, was how do we open up doors for young people to unlock their full potential? That has reigned true from scholarships, that has reigned true from graduate recruitment, and now also remains true in Propeller Health. And so that is always what we've been trying to solve, no matter which direction we've gone and the journey has taken us. This obsession becomes your engine as an entrepreneur. It'll keep you going when things get tough, and it'll help you build your wings while you're already in the air. Knowing what your customers want, knowing the pain point that resolves around you, and knowing the purpose behind why you started this journey in the first place. But to give you real life examples, I thought it best to not just say this, but also demonstrate really what Africa and South Africans have done already. The best businesses start by solving real life problems. And right here in our continent, in our country, we are surrounded by opportunities to make a huge, huge impact that don't only impact our local communities, but it will go to impact the world. Here are some examples founded in 2015 by 4 friends, South African friends, where the initial problem was that millions of small businesses across South Africa, which contributed about 50% of our country's GDP, accounted for 60% of employment, had a massive challenge of accessing card machines, right? Today, we look at businesses, we're able to tap, pay, Apple Pay, all of this new stuff. But back in 2015, this was a massive, massive challenge for a lot of small businesses that were unable to access and were only able to then do cash-only transactions. So this small group of founders came together and realized that there was a way to introduce a simple, affordable, mobile point of sale machine that could be read even on their smartphone. I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but I'm sure a lot of you will know of a company called Yoco. So Yoco was built on that basis of that problem, where a lot of small businesses were locked out. They needed a lot of paperwork to get into the banks, and contracts with banks for POS machines. And therefore, they created the solution to just make it accessible. They didn't come up with payment processing. They didn't come up with card machines. However, they came up with a solution for their target audience that was solving a real problem. So they have gone on to now serve over 300,000 small businesses across Southern Africa and even Europe now, and have processed billions in transactions, unlocking economic opportunity for people. So sometimes I think this example just shows that sometimes when you think the current big players in the space are the incumbents that are holding you back from innovating yourself, you just need to go down to the grassroots level and speak to the people that you want to serve, understand the day-to-day problems of them, and help them where they are. Same as I said earlier, that you need to start with where you are in your entrepreneurial journey. I also believe when you talk to your customers and solving problems, you also need to start with where they are and support them in that route. A second example, and while it's a US-based company, I again want to demonstrate this specific example because it also shows how unique Africa's problems are to be able to solve massive global issues, and in the future be able to translate into massive businesses. So a few US founders came together in 2014 in Rwanda. At the time, the challenge was that Rwanda is full of hills, a lot of rural communities, and it was such a massive challenge for medical supplies, blood, and life-changing, life-saving blood transfusions to be able to be accessed by people in rural communities. It would often take a delivery of blood or medication 4 hours to get to these local clinics. And we all know when it comes to these vital needs, sometimes that 4 hours is just simply don't have that time. And so a company called Zipline used drones to be able to deliver and reduce the wastage as well as the time spent from 4 hours to 15 to 30 minutes of this stuff being delivered anywhere in Rwanda, in any community, in any clinic in these local communities. And they have now gone on to process 1.6 million commercial deliveries. They've done 120 million miles flown. But interestingly enough, they have now led in not only medical supply delivery, but have gone on to now challenge the hugest companies in just general drone delivery. We all know how the world has now changed, where everyone is on Uber Eats. Everyone wants, their latest Take-A-Lot stuff delivered. And also same as Amazon, right, in the US. They have now used that same technology and what they built in Rwanda, because this is the most difficult area to solve this problem for. And have now led the way in being able to deliver parcels in the US, in Japan, in all of these places where the blood saving or the healthcare challenge was not really the problem, but logistics was the challenge. And so I want to highlight this because, again, I often think a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically local entrepreneurs, often think that the problems we're solving aren't significant on the global scale. Just because you're solving a challenge for someone in the Eastern Cape or the Western Cape or KwaZulu-Natal community does not mean it doesn't have the potential to scale and solve problems on the global stage. Another interesting one, which is a very favorite one of mine, because I'm a very close friend of the founder, is a company called Butlali AI. So the problem is that in South Africa, technology speaks one language most of the time. If you're trying to open a bank account, all of this information is brought to you in English. Customer support, frequently asked questions. Yet only 8.7% of South Africans speak English as their first language. Now, Tapelo, who's the founder of this company, faced this challenge when he was trying to help his Setswana-speaking grandmother, who was struggling to use her phone, struggling to get Uber, struggling to all of these things that she wanted to do on her phone. She wasn't able to because she only speaks Setswana, even load airtime. And so he founded this company to create chatbots, AI chatbots that speak in our local languages. They today support all our 12 languages. They work with the likes of MultiChoice, Capitec, in making it easy for people to access digital services, processed through online, using the language that they know and in a natural way. They've gone on to win Best Startup in Africa Tech Festival and a lot of other prestigious awards across South Africa. Very young company. But again, it's a demonstration of how impactful this can be in the future. We know that AI now is a big part of our lives, right? It's a once in a generation type technology that's being created today. A lot of people are scared of it, of course. But imagine a world where a lot of people are just locked out of AI simply because of language. This is where the solution comes in to solve and address these things, where ChatGPT can now be spoken in isiZulu, isiXhosa, isiTswana, zonke izinto, where this is now a way for people to access the future of the world. And so I want these examples to be things that live with you. And the most key part is that whatever problem you're passionate about, whatever problem you're facing today, whatever problem you understand that frustrates you, there's new mediums for you to create the solution for that. And you're more than able to and capable to create those solutions. It's not something that is born with people that are on the outside. Every single person from Steve Jobs to Bill Gates to Elon Musk, all these people that we see, we understand, yes, there's privilege, but also they're humans. They have the same 24 hours. And I hate the saying of we have the same 24 hours. But I want you to understand that they are all humans. No one was born specifically with this gene that made them entrepreneurial, yet you are not capable of doing the same. And so really and I mean, we could go on for a whole day if we were to really go into the depth of the journey, and I'm really excited to be able to do that. However, I know time is limited, so I wanted to give some key stuff that I want you to take out of this. 5 myths and 5 key takeaways for you to be able to keep together and know what takes you through this journey. The myth number 1 was that you need a revolutionary, one-of-a-kind idea. I think a lot of people believe that in order to create these big, meaningful businesses, that you need this revolutionary idea that no one has ever thought of before. I want to tell you that's not true. The reality of most successful businesses are not built on completely new innovation. Instead, they often take current solutions and improve what's already existing out there. If you execute better and you do better and make it more accessible, or even take a solution to a new customer audience, that is most likely the best way to innovate. I often take this with my teams to say, we need to take solutions that we can see, if they're big markets, where have they worked before, and take it to our customers and adapt from where we've allowed them to adopt the solution and then adapt to their current problem statement. That is the best way for us to be able to create new, meaningful ideas that help service our customers' pain points. Not having an idea no one has thought of before is unrealistic. I remember a colleague of mine used to tell me that when you come up with an idea, it's probably most likely 10 other people have come up with the idea 2 days before. So the question is not about if your idea is novel. The question is, how do you execute it and who is it solving it for? Is it addressing the problem that you're looking to solve? And how are you engaging with your customers to ensure that it's actually solving their problems? Myth number 2 is that you need a lot of money to start. While some businesses do require significant capital, many can be started with very little. In our world, we usually refer to this as bootstrapping. Just like an army, just like the people in the army and the police, you just bootstrap, put your shoes on, and just get to work. And that's where you use your own savings to grow your business and also the revenues that come from it. More often than not, particularly with the AI and the technology available to us today, has never been a cheaper time to create a big 10 years ago. And all you really need today to really test out, I would say, is build a website, reach customers through social media, use software, the free software that's available to you to manage your operations. But the key really is to start small. Start small, prove your concept, and then look for funding if and when there's truly a need to scale this beyond your initial working part. Myth number 3 is that entrepreneurs are born and not made. As I said earlier, the myth that successful entrepreneurs we see today are born with it suggests that it's either they have a special entrepreneurial gene and you don't, And while I'm no biogenetic expert, trust me, I don't want to go on record and say there's a bio behind it. I can confirm that, though, this is far from true. In reality, entrepreneurship is a skill set that can be learned and developed. Qualities like resilience, problem solving, financial literacy, communication are built through practice, experience, and in most cases, through failure. I want to also let you know that failure in business and entrepreneurship is your friend. The quicker you can get to failure, the quicker you can learn from that, the quicker you are getting closer to realizing the solution that you're truly meant to get to. And so while many people fear failure and hesitate because of it, I say embrace it. If there's a potential to fail, you'll learn, and you'll get better at it afterwards. As Mandu has mentioned earlier, that's exactly why I enjoy fitness, is that it actually teaches you a lot about the same things that you learn about in entrepreneurship. If you're looking to run a marathon, you're not going to run it overnight. You're going to try your level best, you're going to fail, and you're going to do better day by day. So many successful founders have had different careers or even other ventures before they started their very successful venture. And learning valuable skills along the way, that is the process for entrepreneurship and true entrepreneurship and success. Your background does not determine your potential, and where you start does not determine at all where you end up. We have seen many US companies start off with a huge amount of capital and a huge amount of hype and have gone on to fail. And we've seen African startups with barely nothing and have gone on to make major success. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that no matter where you come from, no matter what background you have the capabilities to change the world if you really, really do believe in it. Myth number 4 is you have to do it all by yourself. The image of that solo genius that is working tirelessly in the garage, I think that many of us are accustomed to, is truly a myth. Successful entrepreneurship is not an individual sport, it's a team sport. Building a business requires a diverse set of skills that a single person can never possess. Successful founders know their weaknesses and build a team and find partners who complement their strengths and support their weaknesses. My own journey is a prime example of that and highlights the importance of collaboration. While I may have started some other businesses by myself, I knew for a fact that I could not grow them or go into them by myself. So you need to find teammates, business partners, mentors, and support systems. And that's the only reason I am today around, because of those things I found along the way. Number 5 is that entrepreneurs are huge risk takers. While starting a business involves a lot of risk, most successful entrepreneurs are not reckless gamblers, right? I might have called myself a chief madness officer, but I'm also not a reckless gambler. Real entrepreneurs are actually very good at managing and minimizing risk. They do this by starting small, testing ideas with real customers, gathering data, and making calculated decisions about what the next step should be based on those results. You don't just jump off a cliff without a plan. You build a plane on the way down, yes, by constantly learning and adapting, but also make sure to pack a parachute should all else fail, right? And so those are the myths, but I also want to get back to the lessons that I would like you to take away from this. Start with a problem and not a perfect plan. Don't focus so much on the solution. Don't focus on what you think is the right way. Focus on solving a problem. The most powerful businesses are born from a flawless, not born from a flawless business plan, but really from a deep frustration with a real world problem. So it's not about having this 50-page business plan and that'll make it a success. It's about really digging deep and looking and focusing on the problem that you're looking to solve. Your first step isn't always the answer. It's to find a problem you care deeply about solving, and your for fixing that problem will be the fuel that drives you through the messy, unpredictable process of building a solution. Number 2, embrace the chaos. As I mentioned earlier, I've really treated failure as my friend, because failure is the way in which you will learn what route is not taken, right? You can fail 100 times in screwing a light bulb, and realize those are all the best ways not to do that, right? Yet anyone else who comes after you will have to go through those 99 processes again and find that one right way. Entrepreneurship is not a straight line. This is the messy process and isn't a sign of failure, but it's the very nature of innovating and bringing something new to the world. Being flexible and resilient is more important than being perfect from the very start. Number 3 of the key takeaways, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, just make it better. Innovation doesn't always create something from scratch. As seen with companies I spoke about earlier, huge success comes from taking existing services and making it cheaper, simpler, and more accessible to communities and customers that have been previously left out. Yoko didn't invent the card machine. Zipline didn't create drones. And Butale AI didn't invent chatbots or AI. But they found ways to make all these innovations useful to the problems they wanted to solve. So always be on the lookout for ways to improve the world around you and the problems you want to see solved. Number 4, your local problems are global opportunities. The challenges we face in South Africa and across the world are not just our problems. They are a massive opportunity for globally relevant innovation. These ideas are often born from solving the challenges you see every day and in turn, learning from people around you and around the world that face the same challenges, and your solution can help them too. We are a perfect example of that, where us trying to solve, job finding and unemployment for youth in South Africa helped us realize that there's a massive opportunity of job or skills shortages across the world, and we can use South African and African nurses to address that, while also in turn resolving our local nurse unemployment problem. Number 5, and last but not least, is entrepreneurship is a toolkit for impact. Ultimately, starting a business is about more than making just money. It's also one of the most effective ways to build the future and make the impact you want to see in the world. It's a hands-on way to take ownership of a problem you see and create a sustainable solution that can improve the lives of yourself, your community, and create meaningful change across the world. But as I said, in the final words, I need to be honest with you. The path is hard. You may have many days where you want to give up. The plane you're building on the way down feels like it's shaking apart. But in the face of times like these, you should always remember your why. It's important. It's about looking at the problem you're starting with and asking yourself why you decided you wanted to be the one who builds the solution in the first place. Every major challenge we face every day in this country and the continent, from youth unemployment, load shedding, to inaccessible healthcare, is a massive opportunity for entrepreneurs, the entrepreneur within you, to create change. So I'll leave you with this question, or these questions. What problem bothers you? What frustrates you so much you can't stop thinking about it? For me, it was genuinely youth unemployment. I could not for the life of me let go of this understanding that people could not access opportunities that existed, and it wasn't fairly distributed across everyone. And last but not least, why do you care so much about solving it? What makes it about you that really frustrates you to the point where you want to be the one to solve it as opposed to letting someone else do it? Start there, start with what you have, and just embrace where your journey begins and where it'll take you from there. You don't need to have a perfect plan. You need a problem you care deeply enough about to solve. If you do that, you won't just build a business. You will have the potential to build the future you want to see for many years to come. A quote from one of my mentors would always tell me is this, and I hope you take it and understand it in full. It's not important to be important. It's important to be significant, because being important only reflects when you're in the room, but being significant remains long after you're no longer on this earth. And what that really meant is that it isn't important to show up into a room and want to be seen by everyone, wanting to be on TV, wanting to be seen to be this person who needs to be looked up to. What you should strive for in this world is that whatever impact you make on this world, even long after you're gone and no one remembers your name, the impact you remain or the significance you left in this world will continue to reign true. So lastly, I hope you remember this. It's always better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. So to everyone who's looking to really take on this journey, I understand there's people around you, but we want you to try your level best and no one's looking at you. So thank you very much for the time, and really looking forward to some of the questions.
Thank you so much for you. I've made some notes as you were talking, so I've also posted that in the chat. But I think the starting point of really looking at problems that you observe around you that are bugging you, that you can't go and sleep at night because you're just thinking about how can I solve this problem. But I guess also this approach that you need to have, that you're constantly looking at the world around you and being critical about, these are things that are bothering me. They're also bothering other people. How can we come together and see what we can do? There was just a question in the chat about reminding us about the names of those companies that you mentioned. If any of you would want to go and do some more reading, I remember Zipline. But could you just do the other two again?
Yeah, the other ones, South African ones, were Butlale AI. I'll write it
Okay.
in the chat.
Yeah.
And Yoko.
Okay, thank you. And I guess, if you engage with online, even on LinkedIn, for example, or any other platforms, there are many such, I would call them case studies that you can become familiar with. How did South African or African companies or startups, which problems are they busy solving? And thinking about, is there a different way or another way that you can also contribute? Yeah. I'm going to just give you a couple of minutes. We've got some time for questions and answers. So you're welcome to post in the chat if you would like to ask for you. Remember, he's here now. We can't let this opportunity pass us by. So even if it's a comment, and remember, there's no such thing as a stupid question, just an unasked one. So please feel free. You can just click on the raise button in Teams, then I will just unmute your microphone. Where there was something while we're waiting for others to gather courage or think about questions. Okay, let me leave my question. There's a comment in the chat. Let's do that. Karabo is saying, I had an aftercare program in which I registered in the year 2023, and by 2024 I quit, not because I wanted to, but I just couldn't find an employee who was passionate about kids and kind like me. How do I start over, and will I ever find more clients like before? So that question is kind of on two levels for me, because you spoke about the importance of, connecting or collaborating with others, but of course there are challenges related to that as well. If you could just comment on the question.
No, great question again. I think there's two things here, right? And it's about, one, on Karabo's end, finding another individual. I don't know the context of who you started the business with, but often I would challenge anyone to, the first thing you need to do is build your team. All right. So when looking to start a business, I always refer mostly to the tech side, but also any business. It's harder to go alone. And so you need to find someone who possibly has experience in the aftercare space, who looks at the vision of what you're looking to bring together, the program you're looking to put together, and also has that same passion that you have for solving this. That would be step number one. Step number two is, yes, you can start over. Yes, you can constantly start over. I would also say, talk to as many people as you deem possible, right? Reach out, don't be afraid, but constantly ask what challenges they're facing, with particular what you're looking to solve for, right? When it comes to aftercare programs, I would imagine there's a number of parents that you can engage with, whether they're interested or what problems they face first and foremost before you sell them the solution. Yes, you'll be able to find customers, and I think that's the best way to find clients, is that you need to really ask them what challenges they face. So as I mentioned earlier, meet them where they are as opposed to where you want them to be in order to access your solution. And after that, I would suggest, again, asking them straight up, if this problem was solved for you, would you be willing to pay for it? That would be my best approach. Find customers or speak is understand how they're addressing it today. By the way, that's another key thing, is how are they solving whatever problem they're facing today, and then introduce a better way for that better way that your program can do than what they're currently doing. And lastly, if they're willing to pay for it, I think that's the best way for finding customers. And if you get enough of those, depending on what, again, the income versus cost would look like. If you get 10 customers, would it make it sustainable to start? Then go with it. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does, but Karabo is
Yeah.
welcome to comment.
Yeah.
Lebogang is saying my pain points are societal and where my business seeks to solve such, which needs government buy-in. I feel that is the biggest hurdle for me, how to go about getting government buy-in. But I guess also in general, you know, how do you get other people to buy into your solution that you come up with?
Yeah. Government buy-in is a tough one. I mean, while I've worked with business, I mean, the as I previously mentioned, my previous job, we were very much government focused. So we were developing or helping communities grow macadamia nuts in partnership with rural community, in partnership with private sector. And where government really needed to support us, how does they support the community in being involved in such an opportunity? And so when it comes to government buy-in, you need to ask yourself two key questions. Is the pain point I'm looking to solve something that is supposed to be solved by government? And secondly, what is the challenge that government has in being able to solve that today for those people and across the globe? So if those two questions that you ask yourself is still valid to proceed, ask yourself the last part, which is, how is my solution going to make it cheaper for government to solve this thing, or more accessible than how they're currently running it? Because you must always remember that government, and I don't want to get controversial, but government is not necessarily like private sector, where it's trying to solve primarily for their own bottom line. You must remember that all that the buy-in that they're looking to provide or get into you needs to be justifiable to society at large, because it's taxpayer money at the end of the day. So how are you making government run better? How are you making them run cheaper? And how are you saving them on the resources that they spend of everyday South Africans to be able to deliver on what you can deliver better? And I think that is the best way to approach government. I hope, Lebogang, that answers, the challenge that you're finding or the route into government buy-in. But yeah, I think that's just the best way, or best approaches I've seen in previously.
Thank you so much for you, and some very encouraging words from Karabo. Thank you. I'm definitely starting over. So Karabo, we are
Happy.
looking forward to hearing from you how you are starting over and how it goes.
I'm
Will you thank you
excited
so
to see
much.
Karabo in the next one.
Yeah. Will you
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm certain, as other people, I'm also feeling very excited.
Yeah.
I think that the wisdom that you shared and the practical tips are definitely worth looking into, and also those questions, to ask yourself as you embark on ventures.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and
Thank you for having me.
then move on with the program. Thanks. Okay, so next on our program, I'm just going to ask my colleague, Mrs. Makanya, if you could please introduce our next speaker to us.
Certainly, Lisa. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to introduce a dynamic leader whose work bridges the worlds of media, technology, and communication with remarkable influence and impact. She is the founder and co-managing director of Tishana Communications, a boutique marketing and public relations firm with offices in Johannesburg and Cape Town. An award-winning broadcaster and former SAFM morning news anchor, she is widely respected for her ability to captivate audiences and spark meaningful conversations. Since establishing Tishala 6 years ago, she has worked with leading clients in the technology, artificial intelligence, edutech, and creative industries, including the South African International Film Festival. Her agency has played a pivotal role in Africa's first artificial intelligence event and in bringing the world's largest gaming trade event to the continent. Beyond her entrepreneurial ventures, she is dedicated to education and mentorship, lecturing in journalism at the University, where she imparts her expertise to the next generation of communicators. She continues to champion the power of storytelling, social media, and technology to build strong brands and meaningful connections. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to say that she is our alumni. And therefore, I would like us to join our hands and give him a warm welcome onto our Unisa virtual podium. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nomsa. You are welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody, for the warm welcome. And yeah, just for this opportunity, just to share my insights with you on building a brand and growing a business as well. Yeah, I've got a very fascinating journey into business, which I will share with you. Lisa, if you can go to the first slide. So as I've been introduced, I'm the founder and CEO of Tishala Communications, and we are a digital marketing and PR agency. I also work as a digital marketing and PR strategist as well. And I've got 2 degrees under Unisa. So I'm a very, very proud former Unisa student as well. So let's look at our journey together. We're going to be looking at my story from Unisa to Tishala, the mindset shift as well for those who want to go into entrepreneurship after studying. You know, some of the mind shift that you need to have, the core foundation. What is a real brand, right? Your brand blueprint will go into digital presence as well. We'll go into the kind of content, the kind of storytelling and value creation you should be creating, and PR and visibility, getting seen by the right people, and also looking into scaling smartly, building for sustainable growth. And then obviously we'll have a Q&A afterwards. Just my little story. So by the way, I could not find my Unisa graduation pics. As I said, I'm a very proud Unisa graduate, and you know, actually while doing my MA with the Liverpool John Moores University, I actually realized that Unisa actually set me up for success, because I found myself sharing my honors material for our research project. So the foundation was really great. And I think my testimony after doing my MA with an overseas-based university was like, you know, sometimes we tend to undermine what is our own. I think the education system in South Africa, more especially at university level, is quite competitive when you look at it, when you compare it to the rest of the world. So this is me. I studied my undergrad as well as my honors degree in media studies at Unisa. I have an MA in mass communication, and I'm currently also pursuing my PhD with UJ. I'm doing communication research, looking at AI. Then my hustle actually started my career as a 19-year-old admin clerk at SAPS, but the dream was always there. So I had to work in order to fund my studies. So that's why I went to work straight after school, then had the opportunity to work as a parliamentary researcher for the NUM and Nahawu. So when I moved to Cape Town, And then finally, I got an opportunity to work in the media space, which was my dream. So I got to work as a journalist, news anchor and editor for 702 and SABC. So while I'm working as a journalist, I freelanced as a PR account exec just to make extra money. That was it. But I did not know that this path that I undermined will lead me to where I am. And so how I started the business is that I was not looking to start a business. I think the gift that I had and the talent that I had, and the way people appreciated my services in PR got me to register a business and just formalize it. So it became a side hustle. And when I decided that I wanted to take a break, a sabbatical in 2023, that's when the business actually grew. So I left full-time employment and I started running the business full-time. And even though entrepreneurship found me, we reached a level of success where I actually realized that I don't want to fail and I need to put systems in place in order for it, for the business to succeed. And so it's been, it's had some many painful lessons along the way, because once you monetize your talent, it means you are running a business. So there are compliance issues, there are pricing issues, there are a whole lot of systems that you need to put in place. And so those are the things that I've had to learn. And like what Vuyo said is that, there might be other talents that you don't have, like numbers and I don't mix. So obviously you get people who are good at those things, who are able to take care of your books while you do the servicing of clients as well. And it was also quite a challenge as well to put together a team. And I must say, tapping into my network helped me find the right people along the way. Next slide, please. All right. So a lot of you will probably go into business straight after studying. Some of you will, like me, work first before establishing a business. But for those that are students, I just want you to look at these two mindsets. And these are some of the things Vuyo touched on as well. So for example, a student mindset will seek a single right answer because all you want to do is just pass that exam. But a CEO mindset creates multiple solutions. Like on a daily basis, from 6:30 a.m., I'm getting calls to solve problems. Some are simple and some are, quite complex. And also what I'm teaching my team is we've got to be people who are solution oriented, So a lot of the times I would get somebody walk in, even from an intern, walk in, hey, Noms, I've got this problem. And I would say, sit down and think about it. How do you think we should solve this problem? So I'm also inculcating that mindset in them as well, to be problem solvers. Then student mindset, obviously, you work for a grade, for external validation. And as a CEO, you build for impact, and you've got to have that internal drive. And just to repeat Vuyo's words, it gets brutal sometimes. Sometimes I would be driving home and I'm like, why me, Lord? But at the same time, it's such a fulfilling journey because you get to make a difference. And that difference is worth the pain. Building something great and seeing the impact that is having in your colleagues, the clients that we are servicing, it just makes me want to wake up every morning and come here. And obviously, the student mindset, fear of failure. And, you know, as a CEO, as an entrepreneurship, you see failure as data. So it becomes a learning curve, and it becomes a teachable moment as well. So I've failed so many times, and I still go for it. But obviously, there must be some lessons that are learned so that you also don't repeat the same mistake that could sometimes be costly. A student would ask, is this is this on the test? And a CEO mindset is this no, this is totally different, sorry. Yeah, so just engaging those two mindset and how you'd have to kind of shift if you really want to be an entrepreneur and the CEO of your own business. The degree helps, and I always say, don't listen to people who say don't go to school. It gives you such a lot of credibility, and for me, it's opened quite a lot of doors. So if you feel like pursuing your studies, go for it. I am living proof, and I don't come from a wealthy background. I'm a girl from Mamelodi, grew up in a single household, a single parent household, because I lost my mom at a young age. But my degrees, my qualifications, including my hard work and years of working experience as well, have helped me. So also your mindset will build your empire when you've got a resilient mindset. I'm the type of person that when something is complex, I will ensure that I uncomplex it. So even sometimes it means that even if you need to maybe step back, rest a bit, but I'm constantly in that solving problem mode, and I don't allow myself to be defeated by new concepts, new information, and all of that. So that's the kind of mindset that you need to have as well. Lisa, can we move to the next slide? All right, let's get to it now. What really is a brand? So a lot of times we think a brand is a logo. You might see, I think well-known brands would be the Apple logo, it might be the Nike logo, whatever. So a lot of times we think that a brand is a logo, and a logo is just a tip of the iceberg. You know, one of my colleagues, who's also a branding strategist, said brand is that intrinsic feeling, that emotion that is evoked when people think about your brand, right? That is what a brand is. What you stand for, your values, the promise that you make to your customers, the experience. You know, there's certain stores that you go into and you're like, here I was made to feel like a queen. You know, I sometimes give a typical example. When we were in our 20s, we were, you know, studying part-time, trying to make a living. I had a friend, a flatmate in Cape Town, and, you know, every month end, we would go into a certain store. That's what we could afford at some point. But we would always point at a certain store and say, Chomi, when we've made it, that is where we'll go. So even some brands, you associate them with that level of self-actualization. When you've reached it, they make you aspire to a certain lifestyle as well. That is what we mean by a brand. We don't mean a logo. Obviously, a logo can be some form of, you know, identification and identifying the brand. But, you know, there are some brands that when you look at, you like, this makes me happy because of the experience that I get when I walk into that store, or looking at this brand really makes me angry because of the way they've treated me in the past. They don't have good customer service, or maybe their food is always stale or stuff like that. So that is really that brand. And these are the 4 pillars that really build a brand, right? Your promise, what you guarantee to your clients, your values, what you stand for. Is it integrity? Is it innovation? Is it community? So those are the things that you should be able to define when you start your business. Your story, why you started and who you serve, their experience, and that means customer experience from A to Z, every touch point, from maybe DMing you on Instagram to the final invoice. How was that experience for them? That is what we mean by a brand. Lisa? All right, so once you have your brand, we are in an era of, digital platforms as well. And, once you've established your brands, you now need to establish your digital home. The first one is your website. Now, your website is the headquarters. That's where everything comes in. It needs to be professional, clear, mobile friendly, clearly states who you are helping and how. Remember that I'm also repeating that what Vuyo has said as well is that when you establish a business, it's there to solve a societal problem or a business problem, right? So you should clearly state what the problem is and how your services or your product solves that problem, right? And also it needs to have a clear call to action as well. Now, here at the office, we call social media your networking party. That's where you build your community. That's where you meet potential clients as well. For example, for me, LinkedIn has been amazing. I've really capitalized on LinkedIn. We've been able to showcase our work there to B2B for our B2B clients, and we actually have been able to get clients via LinkedIn as well. There's also consistency in your posting and the quality of content. And we're very lucky now that we have mobile phones that are able to do amazing things. So in terms of building that digital home, when you run a business, and I always say to this to businesses that are starting up, have digital presence, invest in that. And as you grow, you can invest more in that. But one of our campaigns, we say, if you're a brand that is tired of hiding, then come and see us. And let me tell you something, the success of your business is also tied to your visibility as well. And I've seen it because our core services are public relations. And I have seen how our clients have grown and have gotten more opportunities as well because they were visible in public. And of course, we help strategize in terms of the messaging so that people don't communicate for the sake of communicating. And then also in terms of social media, engage, don't just broadcast or don't only just post, be a community member. So, engage with your potential customers on certain questions, just engage with your community as well. Those kind of engagements that will really help people to be more aware of your brand, and that could also potentially lead to lead generation as well. That's you getting more business. Next slide, please. Yes. Content is king, and that's something that I always tell our digital marketing team as well, that you don't just sell, you solve. So establishing a business means that you are solving a particular problem, right? And so people are buying that solution. So there are creative ways in which you can really do that. And, you can do that via blog posts, establish your expertise, and that will also boost your SEO as well. We've got the benefit of these social media platforms, TikToks, videos where we can record ourselves, where you can be sharing tips as well, and also share case studies, share success stories. What I always also say to small businesses is that always refer, whether you own a salon or whatever, always refer people to Google review and ask them to review your services as well. So never be afraid to brag about the good services that you've given to your client, because that tends to attract other people as well. I don't know, a lot of you, I do it as well. When I go to take a lot to buy a product, I would actually read the reviews as well. And that will tell me whether that product will be a good product for me or not. So always encourage people to review your services, more especially those that are happy with your service as well. And then there are some as well who make use of newsletters to build a direct line to their most engaged audience as well. And then also just a tip that I want to give you. So you can always repurpose one core idea into 5 pieces of content. For example, a live talk, one video can be used as a graphic quote or a blog post or a podcast clip or a carousel post. You know, there are different ways in which you can repurpose as well your posts as well. So it's just a skill that you also acquire along the way. All right, the power of PR and strategic partnerships, and that's that's what I do on a daily basis, and that's what I do for clients as well. So literally, as it says, visibility builds credibility, and that is true. As I said, I do that for a living. I do that for clients. There are clients that I've worked with for 5 years, and I've just seen more their brands become recognized because of the platforms that we put them on as well, and just also how we craft the stories as well. So, but for those who are starting off and can't really afford a PR company as yet, you know, you can pitch to your local media. They're your biz community, SME South Africa, your local newspapers. So use those media platforms, those mass media platforms that are accessible to you as well. We also live in an age of podcasts, and there are those quality podcasts as well, so that you can pitch your story to. But just also ensure that whatever media that you pitch to aligns with the messaging that you are trying to communicate. And what I mean by that is that, for example, if you want to pitch about a business, you would, depending on who your target audience is, if it's B2B, you would go to a B2B publication. If it's B2C, you would obviously go to those consumer publications as well. So it depends on who that message is intended for. And, you know, sometimes I have come across clients who say to me, yes, Nomsa, I want a PR company, but do I really have a story? I remember that I'm of the firm belief, and also based on my experience, that there is a story. Like, every brand, every journey is newsworthy, and it's really how it is packaged. I believe that everybody has an inspiring story, and I've really come across, you know, South Africans who've just done amazing things, who did not believe that their story would really resonate with the broad audience as well. So never take your story for granted, because it could resonate with a whole lot of people, and that is something, that resonance could be something that draws them to your brand as well. And then collaborations, partner with non-competing businesses that serve the same audience. So what I've also learned as a business, and it's something part of the strategy for my business as well, is that, you know, businesses also belong within a community. It might be a consumer community, a business community. So also don't work in isolation as well. Try and build that community, because or networks, if I can put it that way. I've also gotten a lot of business through my networks, where somebody would ask, hey, do you know a PR company or a company that does PR? And I've been able to get people refer my business, because I've built a network and people know what I'm doing. People know the kind of clients that I'm interested in working with as well. So those collaborations, that network is very, very important as well. And public speaking, it also positions you as an expert. And I always say to people, I think some people just have a general gift to speak in front of people, but I think it's a skill that can also be cultivated. I think the more you do it, the better you get it and at it. And as I said, as a business person, even if you don't have that confidence, you need to get it. You can even buy it at Woolworths or Pick and Pay, but it's something that you need to build, because in the business world, you can't afford to hide. In order for people to believe in what you are offering and what you are serving, they need to be dealing with somebody that is confident. So it's also something that you need to build within yourself, the self-confidence and the confidence in your service offering as well. And it's also something that I've had to work on. Next slide, please. All right, so yeah, just the key takeaways from the presentation. Your mindset is your foundation. I was doing a podcast, I think 2 years ago, not 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago. And somebody said to me, what has been your biggest challenge in business? And I told that person that actually my biggest challenge has been internal. And obviously, there have been external challenges as well. But my biggest challenge has been believing that I'm an entrepreneur, believing that I'm a businesswoman, believing that I've got a service offering that people need and that I can do it well. And I think the mere fact that you get local businesses and also international businesses that are actually spending their money for for our services means that we're doing something great. So it's something that I constantly had to ask myself, I tell myself. And as I said, I've been running the business full time for 7 years. Part-time, altogether for 7 years, but I think running it full time for 2 years, right? But it's only in the last year or so where I really started seeing myself as a businesswoman. So what I've learned is that our mindset can really, really be a blockage to us achieving great things. And it's just a matter of just affirming yourself on a daily basis. And yes, there are tough moments. There are times where your confidence takes a knock, but it just takes that constant belief in yourself, and also the fact that other people believe in you and are investing in your business as well. Also remember that your brand is not only your logo, but it's a promise that you are making to your clients. So when you say, I make quality tailored clothing, make sure that it's something that you deliver on a consistent basis. When you are consistent and you give the highest quality, and I've seen this, people will always come back. When you've given people a good experience and you have set expectations about your service that you can meet, people will always come back, right? And also be strategic and consistent with your visibility as well. So as we went through, the content is king. So just ensure that you know, the content that you post is aligned to the work that you do, that it adds value to the public, or you know, whatever your customer may be, whether it's a consumer or a business as well. So you've got to be strategic with your messaging, but also be consistent with your visibility as well. As I said, I've gotten business online because we were consistent. We were sharing thought leadership material. We were sharing some of our success stories. We were sharing some of the behind the scene work that we're doing. And we did it in a very, very creative way while having fun. So this is a strategy that works, and I've seen it work. And also, your Unisa network is a powerful asset. Use it, right? So, you know, you can always use your network to share information about your business, to be that word of mouth as well. So always tap into your network. I can't emphasize how important networking is in business. It's really something that you cannot overlook. So yeah, these are just my little nuggets and gems of my very short but quite a fulfilling entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you so much, Nomsa. Such a lot of wisdom, and I really do appreciate. I think the one quote that really stands out for me is that tagline about don't just sell, but solve. And as I was listening to you, I'm also hoping that those who are listening to you hears that all of these principles that you talk about are actually also things that you can apply to yourself as a brand. You know, so even as you're sitting here, you may not be imagining to be an entrepreneur or a business person, but all of these principles are similar to you building your personal brand. So thank you very much for that. We are running a bit over time. I do apologize, but you would agree with me that the value we are getting from Vuyo as well as now from Nomsa's talk, I don't think we can cut it short. But I'm going to ask you if you have any questions, please post that in the chat for Nomsa. Nomsa, I'm just going to check if there is anything here that we can attend to before you have to go. There's just a comment here from Fiona. I really need a side hustle because one can't rely on salary alone. I've learned now that one can't come up with an idea that no one else has thought of. I'm willing to have a learning mentality and to start again learning from my failures. So I think, you know, as a summary of what both Vuyo as well as yourself spoke about, I think that's a very kind of healthy approach to thinking about it. Yeah.
Also, just to add on that,
yeah.
you know, sometimes your idea might not be an original idea, but you can, for example, service or service an underserviced market, right? So you can find solutions within a product that already exists, or find gaps, if I can put it that way. Like for us, we found that technology companies were underserviced. So that's our niche market. We also have clients in the biomedical space as well. It's a very, very niche market. The nice thing about those niche markets is once you've built that success story, they start calling each other. So even if a service offering, like there are a lot of PR companies in South Africa, but we've established like our niche market that really works well for us.
Thanks, Nomsa. There's just a final question. If you could comment, Priscilla's wondering, you mentioned that your challenges were internal. How did you identify those challenges and also how you overcame those challenges? If there is a step-by-step method that you could share, or maybe just some thoughts about how you overcame that. She also mentions entering a pitching competition and came third at her first attempt, and that was something that helped her to overcome and to progress forward. So just your thoughts on that.
So for me, I actually realized that there's a problem, because I would easily talk about the other things that I'm doing, right? But being an entrepreneur was a well-kept secret because I did not believe that I was. I didn't see myself as a business person. But, you know, there are circumstances that really force you to then step out and be at the forefront of your business. And so it was just these daily reflections that I had to do. And I said, there's a reason why people constantly come back to Tishala to get our services. There's something that I'm doing right. So I need to constantly then affirm myself, because clearly we are producing some good results. So I need to start stepping into that role and seeing myself in that role. And that has done a lot in my confidence. It has you know, also opened a lot of doors for me, because I've now stepped out of that hiding as well. And the good thing of experiencing that as well, I get a lot of entrepreneurs, work with a lot of entrepreneurs who've done amazing things, but also have these internal challenges. So sharing my story with them actually also helps them to you know, step out and take their shine as well.
Thank you so much, Nomsa. We can certainly stay here for the rest of the afternoon, just listening, you know, to what it is that you have to share. But we do appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be here today. There were some questions about the recording of the session today. It will be available in the chat for this meeting later this afternoon. But we will also be posting it on our YouTube channel, and I've provided the link. Thank you, Priscilla, for your feedback as well. So with that, Mrs. Makanya, if you could please introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it is my pleasure to introduce a distinguished leader whose career reflects an exceptional blend of entrepreneurial drive, executive leadership, and a deep commitment to advancing healthcare, finance, and innovation in Africa. Is an honor to do so. Phumelele Makhathini is her name, and she is the she's a lead founder and managing director of VesiCorp Africa. She is the former CEO of the Health Funders Association, known as HFA, and previously served as a CEO and principal officer of the Building and Construction Industry Medical Aid Fund, BCIMA, with more than 15 years of combined experience in healthcare, financial services, consulting, and the tech industries. She has held senior leadership roles spanning government relations, business development, strategy, and entrepreneurship in leading blue chip companies. Her expertise lies in a growing revenue, crafting executable growth strategies, and fostering an organization's entrepreneurial culture. Her leadership extends to board-level governance, where she currently serves as a non-executive director at Matrix Fund Managers, a fund majority controlled and owned by Sanlam. She is also the former vice chairman of the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund and a former post office retirement fund trustee. Collectively, these boards oversee assets under management ranging from 5 billion rands to 30 billion rands. Ms. Makhathini's academic achievements are equally noteworthy. She holds a postgraduate diploma in strategy and innovation from the University of Oxford Side Business School, a Master of Management in Entrepreneurship and New Venture Creation from the University of Witwatersrand Business School, and honors in politics from the University of Johannesburg, and a BA in Communication Science from the University of South Africa. And ladies and gentlemen, please join me with a warm round of applause in welcoming Ms. Phumelele Makhathini onto our virtual podium. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for the earlier introduction, Ms. Makanya. Earlier on, I was just saying that Nomsa and I have quite a bit in common because I'm also a Unisa alumni, just like she is, and we both believe in the power of education. And in order to be successful in business, you ought to be educated, more so as a woman. And I've seen education opening quite a number of doors, even beyond the South African borders. So you can see my picture there. So in that picture, I'm actually in my own home office. Today, I'm working from my husband's office. My office has a much more beautiful bookshelf than his. But anyway, it is what it is. So Lisa, if you can move to the next slide for me, please. All right, I'm talking about a topic that is very close to my heart. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My late granddad was a successful entrepreneur, and I think it sort of skips a generation because in my dad's time, my dad's generation were not as successful as my late granddad, who actually had quite a number of supermarkets in Soweto in particular. And then when I embarked on my studies, entrepreneurship was not in my mind, not at all. I actually wanted to be a journalist, just like hence my undergrad was in communication science. And then after that, I wanted to be a politician. But everything works together for good in very strange and awesome ways, because in order to thrive in business, you need political will. In order to influence policies, particularly in the kind of work that I do, you need government buy-in, et cetera, et cetera. But I will tell you more about the type of business that I'm in as I move on with the slides. So entrepreneurship is undoubtedly the best way, and arguably the only way, to get seriously wealthy. I'm a firm believer of that. And yes, it's got its challenges, as the last two speakers spoke. But the challenges can be overcome if you're determined. So business is extremely brutal, stressful, long nights. You don't have a social life. It's really lonely at the top. And it requires a unique set of skills. So where most fall short is that, they're not willing to be entrepreneurs. So one of the key skills for success as an entrepreneur is being a good salesman. I cannot stress that enough. So I was fortunate in that in my early career, when I worked for both Absa Bank and McGregor's, I could sell. I mean, I didn't study sales or marketing, but I learned along the way that I was gifted with a skill, an important skill of raising or generating company revenues, etc. And that has put me in good stead, particularly in my business. From the age of 25, I started making my monthly income was above 100,000 rands per month. And without a proper mentor at that time, the first thing I did at the age of 25, I bought a BMW 3 Series instead of investing my money in stocks, etc. I did not know there were two critical terms that were missing in my vocab: investments and savings. So I made some blunders while I was making money at a young age. So, and I hope that none of you make the same mistakes as I did. So, but one learns from those mistakes. Now I live, eat, drink investments. I've even chaired an investment committee whose assets management were above 20 billion rand. So I get into the room with your coronations, and all these asset managers, and not only manage other organizations' funds, but it's important to know how to manage your own funds as an individual. So everything works together. And that's where some of the failures come in when you're starting out and charting your path. So I'm not a pessimistic person. I'm extremely optimistic. But in my optimism, I also bring in realism to it, because it's important to be truthful in these presentations. So one important thing is that the truth about entrepreneurship is that most people in South Africa and beyond, they're unhealthy, they're broke, and they've got poor relationships in every area of their lives. And some are just bad decision makers, like I was in my younger years. I'm 43 years old now. I'm a lot wiser. And most people, because of their poor decision-making mechanisms, they can't even manage their own lives. So if you can't manage your life, how are you going to manage your business and the people who work for you? So it's, so being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it's worth it and it can be done. And just like Vuyo, I really do debunk the myth that entrepreneurs are born. You can learn any skill if you have the right mindset. The entrepreneurial mindset is very important to succeed in entrepreneurship. So can we move on to the next slide, please? And again, I am not the bearer of just bad news. If you just stay with me on this, we will unpack other good news towards the end of my presentation. So, but the true hard facts about entrepreneurship is that most startups fail within the first 5 years. And as you can see the statistics there, 70 to 80% of small businesses fail in our country within within 5 years. So this is not only limited to South Africa, it's a global pandemic, so to speak. So, and with these failures, South Africa, unfortunately, ranks the highest globally, and there's a whole host of reasons for that. Our government is not an enabler for business, and I know this because I've been an entrepreneur since 2016, both on and off. But I left corporate permanently now in 2022. I started Voxicop in 2021. But I left corporate to just focus on completing my thesis at WITS because I wanted to graduate in record time. And at that time, I was an executive at Metropolitan Health in Cape Town, so I had a very demanding job. So I decided that it's best for me to just put this theory into practice. As you would recall in the intro about me, one of the degrees that I have, it's a master's in entrepreneurship and new venture creation. So I decided to put that theory into practice. So I went into business and I learned so many things that they do not even teach you at Oxford, where I did my postgraduate studies. And there's a book entitled What They Do Not Teach You in Harvard. So I think the good thing about platforms like these is that we share our practical stories with you, our practical lived experiences about the highs and the lows of business. So the key reasons for failure, and as I said, to me, the main one is that there's very little government support. Government is seen, well, not that it's seen. In my experience, I've seen government as a barrier as opposed to an enabler. Sometimes the policies that government puts forward are just not enabling, depending on which sector you're in. But if you're in my sector, for example, going through the whole SAPRA process to get a GMP accreditation, which is a good manufacturing practice standard if you want to manufacture vaccines like me, it's a hard process. Getting pharmaceuticals into the country and importing and exporting them out, it's hard to get those SAPRA import and export licenses. And I think in other countries where there are such pharmaceutical regulators, those people are a lot more agile. And, you don't wait for a year or 2 years to register a product. But yeah, the message for today is not to discuss that. It's just me trying to highlight some of the hurdles that one has experienced along the way of entrepreneurship. But the most common reasons why small businesses fail, it's because they run out of cash. Why do most businesses run out of cash? It's a systematic problem. It has to do with corruption. So if you're a small business and you get a tender in government, those who are employed by government will say to you, I want a share of this tender. And because they're not in business, they're looking at the revenue and not the net profit. They will tell you, I want 30% or 40% of the revenue of the business. And so that's why businesses don't thrive. And that's why those who receive tenders cannot fulfill their tender obligations, because someone who is a government employee earning their salary wants to be an unlawful entrepreneur or business person. You can't be both things. You need to decide and make a decision. Do you want to be an entrepreneur, or do you want to work in government and serve those who are in business? So it's a systematic problem which needs to be changed by government. And I'm surprised that up until now it hasn't changed. If you look at the president of Botswana, he's getting rid of the tender system. I like him, he's agile, and he knows that tenders do not work. So there's a lot that we can learn about what other countries are doing in terms of improvement. So there are two types of entrepreneurs: survivalist entrepreneurs and superstar entrepreneurs. So when I left corporate in my CEO role, I told myself that I do not want to be a survivalist entrepreneur. And I think those of us listening to me right now are either studying or they're graduates just recently completing your studies with Unisa, or whatever the case might be. So as a graduate holder, you don't want to be a survivalist entrepreneur. You may start off as one because you start somewhere. So it might be that your motivation, depending on your background, your motivation is to meet the needs of your family and your own needs, which is commonly known as black techs in our country. So that could be a motivating factor to start off in business. So if that is your motivation, then it's okay to start there, but don't end there. It's important to be impactful. It's important to have a big vision, and it's important to, just compete even beyond the borders, as our first speaker mentioned. And as I speak about my personal journey, you will understand what I'm talking about. Please move to the next slide. Lisa, thank you. So my advice to you as a student who wants to pivot from being a student or being a graduate and starting your own business without any experience, corporate experience, it's okay. It can be done. So what you need to do is address a social ill. South Africa has a number of social ills. We live in a country that whose households are managed by single parents, and some households are managed by children themselves. So many child-headed homes in South Africa are being reported on a daily basis. And again, you know, we can blame it on poverty. There's so much that we can blame the symptoms and the results of what we are seeing in our communities. So for me, what motivated me to start my business in 2016 was the need to solve the social ill that was linked to food insecurity in South Africa. And most of us do not know this because it's not something you see on a daily basis being mentioned on the news. So every news headline is full of stories of people who've been corrupt, etc., etc. But it doesn't, most news do not highlight the plight of the people on the ground, the plight of hunger. Just my neighbors in Alexandra, living in Sandton, you know, people are starving. There's a chronic food shortage in Alex, in Diepsloot, wherever you are. So I was really touched by that, and I was actually shocked. I was like, how can it be that South Africa has stunted babies? How can it be that South Africa has a malnutrition problem? And then I thought, let me find a solution. And in my pursuit to finding a solution, I first encountered drones in 2015 when I was doing a module called Entrepreneurship. And at that time, I was quite technophilic. And I thought, let me explore what these drones are about. And I quickly discovered that drones are used in precision agriculture and in precision farming. And I immediately thought, great. So I went to China in 2016 in pursuit of these drones. I was so excited, came back to South Africa. I visited about more than 11, I think about 10 to 11 companies that manufacture all sorts of drones in China. And when I came back, I spoke to the then Minister of Agriculture, and I won't mention their names, together with their deputy. And I said, look, here's a solution. Nobody grows up saying that I want to be a farmer, but everybody grows up saying, I want to own a farm. That's a different narrative. You know, people are forced into these farm jobs, etc. So I said, here's a solution. We are a drought-stricken country. Here is something that can help us plant and cultivate crop using the scarce resource, which is water. And, you know, the soil detection, the technology that comes with drones was just so overwhelming and great. And I was told by those two ministers that, Ms. Makatini, you're wasting your time. People are going to lose jobs, without even understanding how the drones were going to work. I said, look, we're planning to have a drone school here where we are going to teach people how to be drone analysts, how to be drone pilots, how to interpret the data from the drones, etc. And there was zero interest. And but at least the Innovation Hub believed in our business. We received seed funding from the Innovation Hub, but we didn't go as far as we wanted to go. Earlier on, you would recall I mentioned political will and political support and how we ought to change policies and the mindset of some of those who are leading us. So when I mentioned that I've experienced government as a barrier for success in business, I meant it. So I had to drop my drone business because there was just no government, unlike in Rwanda, where drones were used to transport food and I mean to transport medical samples like your blood samples, etc. South Africa was, even for agriculture, I didn't go far because of that. So anyway, I moved back to corporate for a few years, but once you've been an entrepreneur, that entrepreneurial bug will not leave you alone. It doesn't matter what your title is at work, you will always be bugged by that opportunity of wanting to create jobs, that opportunity of wanting to solve that social ill. So I'm still in the drone business now. From a consulting perspective, we are actually my company called Agiza. I'm one of the directors there. We are assisting the city of Johannesburg with their informal settlements in Soweto and other areas. So we are making those informal settlements into formal settlements, making sure that there's sanitation, water, etc., using drones, drone technology and other technologies combined. So because of the interest of time, I cannot get into details. And then fast forward to 2021, I started VaxiCop. We spoke about some of the speakers. In fact, both of them spoke about the power of collaboration. Collaboration is key in business. So in 2021, I contracted vaccine twice. I mean, I contracted COVID-19 twice in 2021. And during that period, I was a CEO within the health space. And I thought, let me just find out more about this vaccine, because we were one of those sectors that were forced to get vaccinated. And at that time, your Johnson & Johnsons and your Pfizers did not want to hand over their IP to the South Africans who are meant to fill and finish their vaccine. And I thought, if something is going to enter into my body, I need to understand its makeup. I need to understand the antigens, the formula. I'm curious like that. And it's one of the most important skills of going into business. You must have a curious mind like a child. Question everything, because in your questioning, that's where you get the answers. So, and then I further discovered that, hang on, South Africa, I mean, not South Africa, Africa as the continent is one of the largest consumers of vaccines. I mean, we've got cholera in our continent. We've got a whole host of diseases, malaria, which you won't find in Europe and America. Yet we're not even manufacturers of the malaria vaccines. It's your GSK that manufactures that. So, and I thought, okay, less than 1% of global vaccines are manufactured in Africa, and yet we are amongst the largest consumers of these vaccines. How can that be? And then in that less than 1%, most were manufactured in Senegal, and Senegal manufactures only yellow fever vaccines. And I thought, there lies an opportunity. And for me, the opportunity was on HPV vaccines, because HPV is human papilloma virus. It's a human papilloma virus vaccine. So human papilloma virus is a virus that you get through sexual intercourse. And I witnessed lots of young people dying from cervical cancer at the ages of 35. Some 3 years ago, we buried a friend who died from cervical cancer at the age of 35 as well. So I thought, and your HPV vaccines are your high-end vaccines. They cost a lot of money. And Africans are not prioritized, just like what we saw during the pandemic. So I thought, I need to join the space. I may not be a scientist, but I'm an entrepreneur and I've got a profile. And you know, when you have a profile that speaks, hey, I'm educated, hey, I've got experience, people do listen. So I knocked on doors of the best minds in the industry. I'm the only non-doctor and the only non-scientist in my company. So when you have a chance, just go to www.vaxicop.co.za. So I even have 2 partners from Europe and then 2 partners from South Africa. One is a vaccinologist and one is a biochemist from the Johns Hopkins University in the United States, which is the best for medicine, all types of medicine. I pitched my idea to them, and they bought into my vision. I'm the majority shareholder. I own 41% of Vaxicop. Fast forward to where Vaxicop is, and I'm very passionate about this baby that I founded, because where we are right now is, it just started off as a dream, but right now we have contracts in place with your multinational companies in China who manufacture WHO pre-qualified vaccines in the HPV space. And we are set to start manufacturing our very own fill and finish HPV vaccine in the third quarter of 2026. Remember, it takes long. You have to wait for SAPRA to do all these various checks, etc. So we've partnered with CSIR. We're going to be using the lab there, which is GMP qualified or pre-assessed. So it's been a long journey, starting from an investment of 14,000 euros, which is plus minus 250,000 rands of my own pocket for a feasibility study, which was conducted in France. So you have to, there's a lot of pain in starting a big business like that, but the benefits are phenomenal. So right now, as we speak, we haven't started making profit from this vaccine project. But what I have done is I've met with various ministers of health across the continent, and I've registered our vaccines. So to register a vaccine in a country, it must undergo clinical trials, etc. And it's only the ministries of health. Even if your vaccine is WHO pre-qualified or is SAPRA approved, it must still go through clinical tests, clinical trials in that country's jurisdiction. So it's been a long journey, but rewarding journey. And because in the interest of time, I do not have the luxury to just go into more details about the work that I'm doing in the continent, in the DRC, in Burundi, etc. But next time, hopefully, if one is given an hour to present, I'll be happy to take you through some of the work that one has done in those low-income countries. So yes, it starts here in Mzansi, and then you have to grow your business, be that superstar entrepreneur, and move outside the borders. Lisa, can I have the next slide, please? So while waiting for the next slide, the good news is that in South Africa, if you really want to make an impact, I challenge you to think about community services sectors, which most of us will know as NPOs, because most of these do fall under non-profit organizations. They're the most significant employer of our country, and this is factual. My husband works for a large bank, and he was telling me that his bank has 10,000 employees. So just think about this sector called, so roughly speaking, this is not a factual statistical number that I'm going to give. Let's look at the 5 big banks. Let's say all of them have 10,000 employees. That's 50,000. So the community services sector, the reason why I like it is because the barriers to entry are not high. When you're thinking about solving a social ill, this is the sector where you belong. And it has created more than 2.8 million jobs to date. I really, really encourage you to start thinking about starting a care home, an old age home, whatever the case might be. These are serious money generators. They might be looked down upon, but they have an impact. You are solving a social ill when your business is in any of these subsectors within the community services sector, whether it's education, whether it's food and shelter, caring for the elderly, whatever the case might be, you will succeed. So it's important to really consider these sectors. Next slide, please. So I want to also encourage you to start off as a volunteer. So if you are an unemployed graduate and you've been knocking on doors, submitting your CV to more than 100 companies, and you're not getting any favorable outcome, please consider being a volunteer. It's something that I have done. And what that means is that you're being noticeable. You're out there. People know your name, people know your work ethic, etc. So when there's an opportunity, you'll be top of mind. So don't just sit at home and say there are no jobs, or I don't have capital to start my own company. So there are ways in which you can be seen, which you can be heard. Showing up is the most important thing you can do for yourselves as the youth. So I'm going to encourage you to be volunteers, because if you can, and the reason most people don't want to be volunteers is because there's no compensation. So it's usually something that's looked down upon. But please be volunteers and look for opportunities where nobody is. Right now, you're attending this forum. It's also another way to get information. I attend pitch events. So I wanted to speak about China versus South Africa. The reason China creates, I think in 2015, China was creating more than 300 billionaires in a year, something like that. And that number keeps growing per annum. It's because of the political and government willpower to assist the entrepreneurs. For example, South Africa does not have VCs. We don't have venture capitalists in our country. And also, South Africa does not have, not only do we not have VCs, but we don't have implementation programs. Of course, there's some CSI programs, and if you're in corporate, there's a CSI program that will mentor entrepreneurs or give money to social ills, but it's not deliberate. When I went to China, I was shocked that a new startup can get anything between $300 million to over $1 billion. In South Africa, you take your business plan, you've got a brilliant idea, like the guy who started the dry bath in Limpopo. I'm not sure where his idea is, because there's a water shortage everywhere in the country. So his dry bath idea could have made him a multi-millionaire or a billionaire by now. But, you know, unfortunately, him being South African, I don't think his idea went very far. It would be interesting to see where he is with his idea. So in China, they believe in you. China and the US, they believe in their startups so much that they will back you up without proof of concept. They will back you up without you having, what do they call this? If you're looking for funding, they're going to want, there's a term that is used, the name escapes me now, but some letter of, it's like a security of some sort, that indeed, once they fund you, you will be supplying this company with your goods and services, some assurance letters, etc. They want people to come up with a balance sheet. You've never worked before. You come from an abject poverty background. Where are you going to get someone to back you up? And so South Africa is not an enabling environment for entrepreneurs, but we can be the changes that we want to see. So platforms like these can help us to come up with a masterclass where we say, okay, you're not going to get funding from government. My classmates from Oxford and my former classmates from VIS have said to me, Pumi, let's start an accelerator program for entrepreneurs, because they're not going to get funding from government, because government is going to request them to have all these things that they do not have, to produce things. So that's why we are failing dismally in comparison to our peers. When you look at the number of successful startups in Kenya, it's going to shock you. In the fintech space, and South Africa ought to be at the forefront, because we've got better infrastructure. We we're better in so many ways. Our GDP is much more stronger than our peers, but we are just lacking so behind that we've made ourselves a real third world country. So there's just a lot that can be done. Next slide, please. Don't worry, my slides aren't lengthy. So I want to leave you with this. There's a lot that I can say, but we do not have the time. Entrepreneurship isn't about trying to change the world with the next big idea. It's about starting small and simple while making money and copying proven strategies that work. So what is the game plan? Please move to the next slide. The next game plan is just to start it. Richard Branson put it eloquently: screw it, just do it. Just start wherever you are with what you have, and get mentors, get coaches, reach out to Unisa, but just start. There's never a perfect environment. The government is not here to save you. So yeah, thank you very much for your indulgence. I'm happy to take questions if there is time for questions.
Thank you so much. I think what I do appreciate is this, sense of realism, but also the optimism in that you echoed, what both Vuyo and Nomsa spoke about, is really finding this problem worth solving and being almost relentless about solving this problem, and it will take you very far. There was just one question from me. I'll go to the chat now. You spoke about the importance of sales, and I've also been listening to you and Nomsa and Vuyo. There are some people in the audience who might be thinking, but I'm not the kind of person who could go out and sell things, or I'm not the kind of person who can take these huge risks, to be an entrepreneur. Are there some, tips that you can share in your experience? How do you overcome this almost self-imposed barrier then to start thinking, big and how you want to solve these problems?
Yeah, that's an important question. Good question. If you're a shy person and you've never sold anything to anybody, an idea or whatever the case might be, so you might want to approach this self-imposed, barrier, as you eloquently put it, in two ways. So the first is attend sales courses. They're there. There's plenty of them. And also, just bear in mind that sales and marketing are not the same things. So don't attend a marketing course thinking that you'll be a good salesperson. So there are lots of them, and we live in an era where technology is our best friend and it's cost efficient. So there are many of them on YouTube for free. You can teach yourselves just by going onto YouTube, like you would teach yourself how to speak a new language just by going onto YouTube. That's the first. And if you still fail after you've taken on those sales courses, etc., then you would have to partner, find someone who is good at sales, good at networking, and collaborate with them. Give them a stake in your company. Say, you are going to bring in the revenue, and therefore we can be equal partners, because that's very important for a business. And then you can be the operations person behind the scenes, whatever the case might be. And then both skills complement each other. For example, in my business, I am the revenue generator, the market seer. I'm the one who goes to these countries. I bring business. I speak to governments, etc., etc. But fortunately for me, like I said, I did not have to attend any sales course. Some people are fortunate that they just have the skill. And I think what Nomsa spoke about earlier is that if you practice, even in front of the mirror, if you practice communication, because you're pitching, from the moment you send out your CV, you are selling yourself, because you're going to be called in for an interview. And the first thing you're selling is yourself. So sales is all encompassing. You can't get away from sales. And most people don't make, I've never failed an interview my entire life because I can sell. So it's such an important skill to have, and it can be learned. You know, there is no skill that cannot be learned. So I'm sure right now there's even a lot more sophisticated ways of learning that skill.
Well, I'm thinking about AI. I'll
Yeah.
start having conversations with ChatGPT more often. There's just one question from Zulile here. I'm a person who likes solving social issues. Where could I start? I've been trying to start an NPO, but lacking members who share similar aspirations. So I think it also comes back again to what you spoke about, this importance of collaboration and finding people who can complement your skill set. But do you have any advice on where do we find these people?
That's, you know, South Africa is a very interesting country. We are interesting in the sense that, unlike Kenya, Rwanda, we don't have a lot of these companies, your grant funding companies from the US, just because of our landscape as a country in South Africa. So I would say, if there's nobody within your community of friends or your circle who believes or shares the same idea, just start it on your own. And then the right people will come. So there are grant funders in South Africa, not as many as you would find in the rest of the continent. Even here in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of donor funders, etc. But just start wherever you are, and someone will notice you. You know, every business that I've started on my own. And then along the way, I had people joining me, people believing in me. Just start, because start in your little corner. You've identified that social ill. Once you register the NPO, start. It's not expensive to register. And once you've started, you'll be surprised. Put your work on social media platforms, and then ask people to help you. Those who have, because your community might be small, but if you're sharing your ideas on social media platforms, you'll be surprised at who. There's a lady called Desiree who was in my cohort at Oxford. She's based in Texas. She and others are always looking for, she was telling me that the University of Nebraska has a lot of money, and they're trying to find programs where they could partner with people who are solving social ills in Africa. But she's mainly interested in health and education, for example. So just start. You'll be surprised. People want, everything seems impossible until you start. Don't wait for others to join you, because it will never happen. All businesses are started by 1 or 2 people, and then everyone else joins in the end, or as the business is progressing. I started Voxicop on my own. I started Agape on my own. And so just start on your own, and then the right people, you will attract the right people. It's hard to start. Nobody wants to roll up their sleeves. But when you've started, people are like, okay, it's already in motion. I can join. I can jump on the bandwagon. So starting is the most difficult, yet the most crucial. As a visionary, you have to start. As a visionary, you take the highest risk. So just start. Don't wait for people in your community to share in the same vision as you. So that's the advice that I give.
Thank you so much. I really want to thank you for your time this afternoon. I know you've got a very busy schedule. There's a lot that we could learn from what you shared. But I think another thing that really stood out for me is developing this curiosity mindset, that you mentioned, and just starting. As you, I think where you spoke about that, or Nomsa also, there will never be the right time to do certain things, but if you just start, you'll be able to start learning how to do things more effectively. So thank you very much. We have run way over time, and I really wish that we could stay a bit longer. But I think I will now ask my colleague, Mr. Beki Mzobe, if you could just end off the session for us. While he is ending off the session for us, I'm just going to share some resources in the chat. I will also share a link for you to just give us some feedback about today's session. So on that note, Beki, if you could please do the thank you for us.
Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me to deliver the vote of thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. It has truly been an inspiring afternoon, and I believe we can all agree that today's Career Talk has given us fresh ideas and motivation to think differently about our own journeys. On that note, I wish to express our sincere appreciation to everyone who contributed to the success of today's Career Talk on entrepreneurship and innovation. First and foremost, a very special thank you to our distinguished speakers, Mr. Vuyo Phakade, Ms. Nomsa Mdluli, and Ms. Phumelele Makhathini, for so generously sharing their experiences, knowledge, and personal journeys with us today. Your experiences has inspired us to see entrepreneurship and innovation as a powerful tool to create opportunities and drive change. To our students, thank you for active participation and engagement. Your curiosity and questions made today's discussion even more meaningful. Lastly, a word of thanks to my colleagues in the Directorate for Counselling and Career Development for their efforts in planning and coordinating this event. As we close, let us carry forward the lessons learned today and put them into action as we build our futures. Thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming Career Talks. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Becky. From our side, we also wish you all the best with your studies. I've posted our contact details, so if you need to get in touch with us for support, you're more than welcome to send us an email, or then also to make online or in-person appointments with our counsellors. Today's session is actually the last in our series of career talks that we have organized throughout the year. We do encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, where we have posted or published recordings of most of the sessions. There are a couple of the last ones that we still need to edit and publish. But if you missed out on any of the previous talks, please go and check out what is available on our YouTube channel. And then, as mentioned, I've posted a link to our evaluation form. So we do appreciate your feedback in terms of how we are doing in terms of the career seminars, and this will also help us to plan future events. So on that note, we wish you a very good afternoon and all the best with your studies. Goodbye.